Hello everybody, my name is BENJO. I've secured All India rank 59 in the UPSC Civil Service Examinations 2023, and this was my fourth attempt, and my optional for the Civil Service Examinations was Anthropology. So through this video I would like to talk to you about Anthropology as an optional, how to choose an optional, and my approach to Anthropology. In this approach, we would briefly walk through the syllabus, very briefly, and I'll tell you guys what my approach was towards the syllabus. And then the other thing that we'll do is I'll show you one of my notes, a screenshot of my notes, and I'll tell you the way in which I approach note making. So this would be the four main things that we do in this video. Okay, so onward to the presentation. So like I said, this was my fourth attempt, and in my first two attempts I could not clear my prelims, but then in my third attempt I cleared the prelims, and I scored 239 in Anthropology. I think 128 in paper 1 and 111 in paper 2. So this happened in my 2022 mains, and after that, so 239 was not a very good score, and I could not clear. But I wrote another main, so I applied for the exam again. And in my 2023 mains, which is this attempt, I scored 303. So this was the significant, change, and I think the most important reason why I could get into the list. So this was my two attempts with Anthropology. I came across a lot of things that I think would be beneficial to a lot of people. Okay, so now, how did I do this? It's very difficult for me to explain all of the things that I did in a brief video, but I'll try to summarize some of it. Okay. Now, before we go to that, let me just tell you how to actually choose an optional. Okay, so first, why Anthropology? But before that, let me just briefly tell you what are some of the pointers to keep in mind before choosing an optional, and then we talk about why I chose Anthropology. Okay, so how to choose an optional? That is the important question. So my background is in mathematics. I'm a mathematics graduate, and while taking the decision to prepare for civil services, we all have to choose an optional, and I initially thought about mathematics, but then I shifted to Anthropology. Some of the objective reasons that everybody could follow, that I also followed then, was number one. So how to choose optional? Number one reason is, it's a qualitative reason, but I think it's the most important reason, which is your interest. How much of interest do you actually have in the subject? So what I did here to generate interest, or to actually know if I have interest or not, I looked up at the syllabus of different optionals, and that is when I came across Anthropology, and I understood that it has a lot of things which I would generally be interested about, and a lot of things in which I could sustain my studies. So interest is particularly important because maybe, you might take more than one attempt. So if you are preparing for, let's say, 2 attempts or 3 attempts, changing your optional in every attempt would be very difficult. So interest is important primarily because if you have good interest, then you would, persist with one optional. You can value add or add extra things in every attempt and make the best of your optional. So that is why interest is important. And again, if you do not have interest, then we not stick to an optional over attempts. So the first thing is a qualitative thing, but it's very important, which is interest. So choose an optional in which you have very good interest in, right? For some people, let's say, I have a friend who has, very good interest in international relations. He follows things happening around the world. And so naturally, when he had to choose an optional, he would choose PSIR because it has the most convergence with his interest. Now, so that is an example of how interest should play a very important role in choosing your optional. The second thing is a quantitative thing, which is marks scored. See, in marks scored, there are two ways to approach. The first way is to see in the last 2 to 3 years, what is the maximum marks scored in that optional. So, anthropology, usually, the maximum marks in this year was about 325. Last year, again, it was somewhere near that. It was again 325. Before that, it was 306. So consistently, anthropology is an optional which gives, in the last 2 to 3 years, a maximum mark of 300. So choose an optional which has, in the past 2 to 3 years, very high marks. Let's say high mark in this exam is 300. So choose an optional which consistently brings in the last 2 to 3 years, 300 plus marks. Anthropology is one such optional. The second way is not to max out, but to find the average. But this is very difficult. It's a tedious process. What you could do is, all the toppers, all the people who have cleared the exam, you could do the painstaking work of identifying who all had anthropology, add all their marks, find the average. Do the same for PSIR, do the same for sociology, do the same for some other optional, and then find the average. And then choose the optional which has the highest average marks. This is a bit more tedious process, but if you have time and if you're, a little bit more data minded, then certainly find out the average of all the optionals in the past. Don't just limit to 1 year again. Find it for the last 2 to 3 years. And then again, you will get a pretty good understanding of how much marks is the optional actually scoring. So this was the two main pointers that you should keep in mind before choosing the optional. One is interest and second is marks scored. Now, there is a third pointer. The third pointer is resources and guidance. So what do I mean by this? What I mean by this is that I'm not picking and choosing other optionals, but in some optionals there is a dearth of materials. We don't have as many basic books, or we don't have areas to add content, add value to the answer. So there are some subjects like that which lack when it comes to resources. Second, there are some subjects or some optionals which lack in guidance. So you can't find a reliable teacher to teach you or guide you when you've chosen that optional. So irrespective of having the first two, see, if an optional is consistently scoring marks, then definitely there would be some good teacher and some good resources that people are, getting their hands into. So this actually applies to optionals in which you have interest, but again, there is not enough resources or guidance for you to benefit. So if this is not there, then I would suggest to not go. So these are, three main pointers to keep in mind when you're choosing an optional. Okay, now I'll tell you why I chose anthropology. So why I chose anthropology was, again, based on the three things that we just said, I was really interested in anthropology, and how I developed the interest was I said this other places as well. I read this book called Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. And Sapiens is a brief history of mankind. It talks about human evolution. So I was captivated by the book, and then I wanted to do something, if I'm preparing, let me take a subject which has some element of human evolution in it. Anthropology was one such. Second, anthropology had biological anthropology in it or physical anthropology in it. And this is heavily, connected to biology. I had taken biology in my 11th and 12th, and I also fairly liked drawing diagrams and everything in my answer sheets. So that was also another reason why I was interested in anthropology, because I thought if I take a PSIR or a sociology, I might not be able to draw diagrams. And because I'm fairly good at drawing diagrams, I might get an extra mark there. So that was another reason why I took anthropology. And the third was I was really interested in a lot of these sociological things. So sociology has all of that, man. I mean, the marriage, religion, all of these are sociological points of analysis. But then sociology did not have the first two things. It does not talk about human evolution. It does not give a lot of avenue for drawing. But anthropology has a socio-cultural part, which also talks about all the social institutions such as religion, marriage, etc., etc. So three of these things combined generated my interest in anthropology, and this is in retro, when I look back, the main reasons why I chose anthropology from the interest part. Now the second is the marks part. So when I was thinking to choose an optional, right? When I was thinking which optional should I choose, that year or before that, I graduated in 2018. So 2017, Anudeep Durishetty sir was there. He had scored, he secured AR1 and he scored some 340. I don't remember the exact marks, but he scored really high in Andhro. And he also said that he prepared it for a very short time. He had a different optional and then he switched to Anthro, but he still scored really well. Then 2018, 19, 20, all years, there was somebody who would top with Anthro. So I think 2018, it was Akshat Jain sir. He scored AR2. 2019, I exactly don't recall. I think there was Sachin Gupta sir, but I don't recall correctly. 2020, there was another AR1, Shubham Kumar. 2018, there was AR2, AR4. So when I chose the optional consistently, a lot of these people were securing AR1 or 2 and they were scoring above 300 consistently. Even last year, like I said, Anthro scored 325. This year, it scored 325. Last year, it scored 306. So 300 plus was a consistent mark when it came to anthropology. So this was the second reason why I chose anthropology. And the third reason was resources and guidance. So this was also replete as far as anthropology was concerned. Anthropology is an academic discipline that is being taught all over the world. So even if there might be some even if there are some problems or lack when it comes to resources available in the market, in the internet there are multiple resources available, and these resources are free of cost. It's just that if we have interest in that, we could use it. So there are a lot of YouTube channels available for archaeology, which is a part of anthropology, or socio-cultural anthropology. There are a lot of university websites available. There are a lot of content prepared by college professors available for anthropology. So as far as resources and guidance was concerned, that was also, a tick. And so this is why I chose anthropology as my optional. Okay. Now we will go to anthropology syllabus, and then briefly we'll see. Okay, so now we'll briefly go through the syllabus for anthropology, Again, see, the syllabus for anthropology is a very long one, and I might not be able to go through each and every part, but I'll still try to make sense to you. Okay, so like I said earlier, the initial interest for me developed from Sapiens. Now you can see that here 1.4 is an entire chapter that is dedicated to human evolution and how human beings evolved. So this was one of the reasons why I was drawn to anthropology. Just as a side note. Okay. Now we'll go through each part of the syllabus. See, the first three units, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, these are very generic units, and these are actually units which introduce you to the subject. What is anthropology? How it is related to sociology? How is it related to other fields? You could see here, relationship with other disciplines, meaning, scope, and development. Okay, so these are the first 2 points. And then here we understand anthropology from a holistic view. And anthropology is mainly divided into socio-cultural, biological, archaeological, linguistic. So this is the first 3 units. It's a very simple unit, but you can't make notes before you finish the whole syllabus. I would say that you make notes for this only after you finish the entire syllabus. Take it. Now, next is the 1.4 and 1.5. Okay, 1.4 I've already talked to you. 1.4 is basically about the evolution of human beings. And this is a very interesting chapter because it has a lot of concepts. It also talks about how human history came up. So in that way as well, this is a very interesting chapter. And I'll tell you, for each of these things, what I did, what was my approach to each of these, syllabus points. So mainly I depended on topper notes. I did not read any of these prescribed readings as far as anthropology was concerned, such as there are a lot of books, standard books, so to speak, for anthropology. But what I did is I took a lot of topper notes. And the unique thing about anthropology is that a lot of these, almost all of these notes are available freely in the channels of these toppers, right? So they have got Telegram channels and they have shared their notes for free there. I used all of them, and now I am trying to give back. So I also have a channel. It goes by my name. Just type my name. You will get it in Telegram. And now I am sharing my notes there. So that is like giving back to all the reasons why I could gain all of these notes and good marks. Okay, so for 1.4, I referred excessively to the book by, like I said earlier, Akshat Jain sir. So he has prepared a book, and my basic source was sir's book. Not just in 1.4. Basically, for all of the syllabus, I did read sir's book. But then I read other things as well. And as and when we come across that, I will briefly tell you what all I did, where all from. So Akshat Jain sir's book is number 1. Then I supplemented that with a lot of Wikipedia searches and Google searches. Okay. But otherwise, a simple chapter, sir's book would be more or less fine for the chapter. Now, onwards to 1.5. So 1.4 talks about human evolution. 1.5 talks about primates. So primates are, evolutionary cousins of human beings. Or primates are the larger group of all of these organisms which we are really connected to. So it has in primates, monkeys and apes and human beings. And so in 1.5, we study about characteristics of primate, what they are, how do they behave, social behaviors and other behaviors, so on and so forth. Again, for 1.5, I refer to Akshat Jain sir's book. Mainly, it was that book. Then we go to 1.6. So 1.6 and just 1.6. 1.6 is basically fossil primates, or it is basically something called paleoanthropology. Which basically means that among the primates, many of them are, living with us now, but a lot of primates have gone extinct over the years. And so, what are these fossil primates, and what are the physical characters of them? If they have some sort of social organization, how do they organize socially? All of this is talked about in 1.6. I referred extensively to, again, Akshay Jain sir's book. For this, I also saw a lot of YouTube videos, and I tried to make a holistic sense of what each of these, each of these species are, and how are they related to human beings and all of that. Okay, so that was 1.6 and 1.7. Now, 1.7 is a very basic sort of chapter. It might appear not relevant for the exam because nothing is asked directly from 1.7, but this is very important for your conceptual clarity. So I will not say that you make extensive notes from 1.7, but the concepts in 1.7 is very important. It talks about DNA and the central dogma of molecular biology, so on and so forth. It's a very simple chapter, but it's difficult to understand conceptually. But once you understand 1.7, you could then understand 1.4, 9.1, and a lot of other units within paper 1 better if you understand 1.7. So that is the importance of 1.7. I did not read a particular book for this. I refer to online YouTube videos. A lot of videos available. You just have to type in DNA structure, replication, mutation, chromosome, cell division, so on and so forth. That was the main way in which I tried to understand the concepts. For this, I also used some of my class notes. I had enrolled in Vajiram at that time for anthropology. So I used some of the class notes also for 1.7. Okay. Now we'll go to 1.8. So 1.8 is a very different topic from whatever we've just said. The first 1.1, 2, 3 was a general understanding. 1.4 was human evolution. 1.5 was primates. 1.6 was fossil primates or paleoanthropology. 1.7 was molecular biology, more or less. 1.8 is called archaeology. And in archaeology, here there is a lot of mugging up to do. For 1.8, again, I refer to Akshay Jain sir's book. I also read IGNOU. IGNOU has beautiful notes or text just for all of these aspects. So I refer to IGNOU notes as well as Akshay Jain sir's book. The unique aspect about archaeology is that it is much more information and content heavy. So a much more of memorization and learning by rote is required for archaeology. I was not very good at that. So I try to minimize my learning of archaeology. But that being said, it is a very highly scoring part of anthropology. It's a very easy part, just that you have to mug up, memorize everything. If you mug up and memorize, you will get marks in archaeology. That is what usually happens. So, again, like I said, I did not do it extensively because I did not want to mug up a lot. But then it's always better to be prepared with 100% of the syllabus. Do 1.8 really good. Now, there is another part that is connected to it, which is paper 2, 1.2, I guess, which deals with Indian archaeology or archaeology in India, right? And, all of these periods within the Indian subcontinent. That is, again, much bigger than 1.8. It is a much vast thing. Again, heavy on knowledge, heavy on content, difficult to memorize. But again, if you memorize, you would reap the benefits. You would get high reward for learning archaeology. So 1.1 and paper 2 1.2, very important. I refer to Akshay Jain sir's book and then IGNOU notes. There is another book which is called Prehistoric Archaeology. It is by this author called D.K. Bhattacharya. D.K. Bhattacharya, Professor D.K. Bhattacharya. He is a professor in archaeology in Delhi University. He has written this book called Prehistoric Archaeology. So you could refer to that book as well. Prehistoric Archaeology. So there is another book by him, same author. I am forgetting the name. That is also a very good book. I did not refer to these books again because I did not give so much importance to archaeology. But this is a very good book. I've heard from many of my friends who done archaeology that this is a very good book. So this was about 1.7, 1.8. Now we'll go to 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, all of these, and then 2, 3, 4, and 5. These 5, essentially these these syllabus points, such as 2.1 to 5, this forms the bulk of your socio-cultural anthropology. Okay. So here we have all sorts of different topics. We have culture, society, marriage, family, kinship, economic anthropology in 3, political anthropology in 4, and religion in 5. It's a very diverse sort of thing. I mainly refer to Akshay Jain sir's book again, but I diversified from a lot of other places. There is another topper called Mandar Patki sir. Mandar Patki, he topped in the 2019 exam. So I refer to his notes, and I referred again to IGNOU notes. I refer to almost any other place from where I could get content. Okay. So this is a very interesting part. It has a lot of sociology in it. It's a highly scoring part. A lot of thinkers here, a lot of case studies, a lot of examples, a lot of books. But it's a very highly scoring part. I really liked reading this. So if you also invest from 2.1 to 2.1 to 5, again, you could score a lot of marks, especially if you bring in books and authors and famous anthropologists. Okay. Now we'll go to 6. The 6th unit is called anthropological theories. Now the thing about theories is that this forms the basis of your socio-cultural anthropology. So this actually forms the basis of unit 2.1 to 5. A lot of the things that are said in unit 2.5, 1 to 5 could be better understood if you read 6 properly. The thing about 6 is that this is not very knowledge heavy. Archaeology is a knowledge heavy, content heavy part. Unit 6 is a concept heavy part. It is a philosophy heavy part. I really loved Unit 6 because I like reading about concepts and everything. And if you do Unit 6 properly, then it would benefit you in that it might not directly benefit you because, not many questions are asked from theories, but it will benefit you in other areas. It will benefit you not just in paper 1, also in paper 2. It will benefit you if a question is asked from the socio-cultural part. Then again, you could quote something from these theories and score marks. So this forms the foundation or the base of your socio-cultural anthropology. Again, where did I do it from? I did it from this topper called Narayan Amit. His notes are very extensive when it comes to anthropological theories, so I refer to his notes. I also refer to University of Alabama, again, very famous source that anthro people usually use, University of Alabama. So there is a website, and this website has detailed information about all of these different theories. Okay. Now we'll go to chapter 7. Chapter 7 is a small chapter, or a unit is a small unit. It talks about language. I refer to Vajiram class notes mainly for this. Also Akshay Jain's book for chapter 7. It's a small chapter. Not many questions come from it. Now, chapter 8. Chapter 8 is research methods, or what are the different ways in which the studies of anthropology is conducted. So that is unit 8. Here again I refer to Akshay Jain's book. I also refer to the notes by a topper called Abala Mishra. She is, I think, 2020 or 21. I'm not able to recall the year, but again, her notes for research methods very extensive and nice. So I refer to that. You could understand that, you know, I tried different toppers. I read almost all of their notes, and I picked which areas in those notes which I found relevant, which I found good for me. So again, you also pick and choose areas from the topper notes which you want. Okay? And do not make one topper ka note your all, do not make one topper ka note the final solution to preparing everything of anthropology, right? Pick and choose between different people. So that is that. Now, this is a very interesting, not just interesting, but important part, which is unit 9.1 to 9.1 to, not just 9.5, we have more here. Unit 9.1 to unit 9.8. So unit 1 to unit 9.8 mainly deals with physical anthropology or the biological anthropology. Again, there is a difference between physical and biological anthropology, but again, this is not a concept clearing session, so I'll not go into it. But 9.1 to 9.8 is basically the physical anthropology. I refer to Akshay Jain's book mainly for this, but I also again refer to a lot of YouTube videos. I also refer to Narayana Mishra's notes, also Apala Mishra's notes. 9.1 to 9.8 is a very important part for your exams because a lot of questions come from here. And second, this is also a little bit more on the concept part, concept heavy, but it still has a lot of things to memorize. So a lot of people who take anthro from medical background, they are experts in 9.1 to 8 because they already have some sort of background in genetics and everything. So 9.1 to 9.8 deals with genetics and diseases. 9.8 deals with diseases. 9.7 deals with ecological anthropology. 9.5 deals with race and racism. 9.1 and other deals with chromosomal aberrations, genetics, so on and so forth. Okay. So these are what 9 to 9.8 deals with. Now we'll talk about chapter 10 or unit 10. Now unit 10, 11 and 12, again unit 10 and 11, they are something called developmental anthropology, and this deals with when as a human being is growing up, what are the different aspects about that human being. This is mainly dealt in chapter 10 and 11. My sources were Akshay Jain's book as well as Apala ma'am's notes. Highly scoring part, nothing much to say there. Now, unit 12 mainly deals with applications of anthropology. So anthropology, like I said earlier, is a very holistic subject. It has multiple subdisciplines and subgroups within it. So applications of anthropology are very wide and very expansive, from forensic anthropology to avionics. Anthropology is a very wide subject. So anthropology is used not just in forensics, but also to design suits to be made for aeroplane pilots or travelers. So this particular unit talks about all the different applications of anthropology. I referred to multiple sources for this. Again, Akshat Jain sir's book, then Narayana Mitra notes. I also referred to EPG Pathshala here because EPG Pathshala has, this is a website, and this has a lot of examples and history of different subfields of anthropology and different applications of anthropology. So you could refer to all of these resources. Correct. Okay. So now we have finished paper 1 of anthropology. Now we'll briefly talk about paper 2 of anthropology. Before going to paper 2, let me just tell you, usually paper 1 more or less is more scoring than paper 2. Because in paper 2 is mainly more of a humanities paper. Paper 1 is a little bit more of science because it has physical anthropology. Also, a lot of technical things to say and concepts are there in paper 1. So paper 1 is usually more scoring. Paper 2 is not as scoring. Again, there are always somebody who bucks the trend, but it is usual that paper 1 is more scoring. So your strategy must be, based on this fact. Okay. Now we'll go through each of these sub-points again, and then I'll try to explain to you what they are again briefly. So 1.1 is connected to the earlier, like I said, 1.8. 1.8 of paper 1 was, if you remember, archaeology, right? So that was world, archaeology of the world. But 1.1 of paper 2 is talking about archaeology in the Indian context, right? So all of these different eras, prehistoric era, Mesolithic, Neolithic, how it happened in India, their finds and everything, right? So this is 1.1. I told about which resources I used for this. I mainly depended on Akshat Jain sir's notes, also IGNOU notes, and specifically for paper 2 1.1 for Indian archaeology, I refer to Narayana Mitra's notes. This is also referred extensively. Now, 1.2 is paleo-anthropological evidences from India. So if you recall, 1.6 was paleo-anthropology, right? So this had different fossils. So this is all the fossils if you remember, there was Australopithecus and Cro-Magnon, Grimaldi, Neanderthal, everything. Now, that was generally for the whole world. Now, here in 1.2, we are specifically dealing with 2 fossils that was found from India. So, it is the Ramapithecus or the Shivapithecus. This is actually just one, there's a whole debate about it. It's a very interesting debate. And then the second one is Narmada Man. So these are the 2 fossils that are important as far as India is concerned. And so that is what we study in 1.2. Again, I refer to Akshat Jain sir's book, Narayana Mitra's notes, as well as general Google search and YouTube search. Okay, something that I forgot to tell till now was that I extensively used ChatGPT, in this attempt, 23 attempt. I did not use it in 22 because ChatGPT was not popular then. But just before the 23 attempt, ChatGPT was all around. Gemini, which was Google's AI chatbot, was famous. Now it is called Bard, I guess. Or earlier it was called Bard, now it is called Gemini. So I use both these AI chatbots to tabularize or get me names of new thinkers or, get me new research so that I could add value to the answer. So, again, you could also make use of it. So why I said in 1.2 is that when I read ChatGPT, when I tried ChatGPT and asked it for latest research, I could get that a lot of new studies were being done on Narmada Man and Ramapithecus and everything. So that is another important way in which you could try to bring in value to your answer. Okay, now, okay, 1.3 again, I did not prepare 1.3 extensively, but ethnoarchaeology as a whole is related to 1.8. If you go back to the syllabus of paper 1.8, then you would see that this is, connected to all of this. I did not specifically refer to an area, to one note for this. I did very brief study as far as 1.3 is concerned. But based on your interest, you could study on it more. Now, 2 is also a very content-rich and knowledge-intensive part. This has a lot of mugging up to do. In Unit 2, what we study is we study about different linguistic elements in India. So we study about Dravidian languages, we study all the languages in India. What are the Aryan languages, what are the Dravidian languages, what is, where is Mon Khmer language linked to. So there are different families of languages within India. And in 2, we study all of these different languages, subfamilies and everything. That is 1. So that is the linguistic element. The ethnic element, we study the different race groups in India, right? So how did different race groups form in India? Is race real or not? So all of that. I referred to Akshay Jain sir's book, also Mandar Patki sir's book here, Mandar Patki sir's notes here. But let me just tell you, I did not want to mug up and memorize a lot. So I did not read, I did not study it effectively. And full disclosure, in this year, paper 2, there was a question on Dravidian languages. I wrote maybe very few points for that because I could not even recall all of the languages and the subtypes and the subfamilies of the different languages because I just did not want to mug up. But if you are a person who would like to memorize, then this is a very easy scoring part. Just mug up and memorize, write it down. The examiner will have to give you marks because this is, even though it's humanities, it's a very absolute thing. If you write the correct answer, you would get good marks. I was not a very big fan of that, and so I did not, write that question very nicely. Now we go to something called Indian anthropology. So essentially 3.1 to 5 and then maybe just the next thing as well. So no, 3.1 to 5. From 6 it is something else. So 3.1 to 5.3, the entire all of these units deal with Indian anthropology. And in Indian anthropology, mainly this deals with caste in India. And when you do anthropology, you would understand the importance of caste as a topic for anthropology. How caste as a topic has been studied by different anthropologists, initially by sociologists and then by anthropologists. How the caste studies have changed in India. Very interesting to study. For this area, I did Mandar Patki sir's notes. That was my main, notes where I depended on. The others are also related, different things. Again, for all of this, I depended on Mandar sir's notes. From 5.1 to 5.3, just take another different color. 5.1 to 5.3, this is called village studies. And village studies is important because it takes village as a unit of study in anthropology. So generally how this happens is, earlier on we were interested in social institutions, we were interested in things like caste, we were interested in Indian mythology. Even in anthropology, we had very strong mythological basis. But then as, we gained independence, first villages coming up, in independent India, 1950s, 60s, anthropologists became much more interested to study villages. Villages you wanted to study. How does caste system operate within the village and all of that. So that is being said in 5.1 to 5.3. Again, I refer to Mandar Patki sir's notes, very extensive note. You could read that. I also did in these areas, I also did a lot of value addition from, like I said earlier, EPG Pathshala. And EPG Pathshala, not just for the anthro, there is EPG Pathshala is again, let me just briefly tell about that. It's a website. It has articles written by the most prominent expert professors of this country. And they are free. You could just go to the website, download the PDF, read it. So how they've arranged it is on the basis of different subjects. So there is an entire anthropology section of EPG Pathshala. There is another sociology section of EPG Pathshala. So I not only referred to the anthropology section, I also referred to the sociology section. So from the sociology section also, I could get a lot of content, right? A lot of thinkers, especially in Indian anthropology, is based on sociology. So I could get a lot of things from there. Now let's go to the last part, which is not the last part, but the not last but one part, which is tribal anthropology. So like I said, 6.1 to 9.3 is mainly, I will not say only, but mainly tribal anthropology. So what we do here is that we don't study specific tribal groups. We don't do that here. What we do in this portion is we study about the different aspects of tribal life. We study about health. We study about educational status of tribal groups. We study about employment status of them. We also study about different policies that have come up from the time of the British to the independent Indian government. How has policies related to tribal groups and also forest affected tribals? So that is mainly what we study here. There are some off topics here as well. Let's say 8.1, which is impact of Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity on tribals of India. So this is different from the other thing, which is the first things deals with education, unemployment, poverty, health and everything. This deals with the development projects and what the government has done, the policies of the government. This deals with how religions have impacted tribal groups. This also deals with similar thing, to this. It is exploitation, deprivation of tribal groups and everything. Now, I'll tell you 3 different topics here, which usually people do not prepare, but which are very important, in my opinion, to score marks, which is the concept of ethnicity, tribe and nation state, as well as 7.2, social change and contemporary tribal societies. So people usually do not prepare on these topics, but if you prepare, they are very highly rewarding topics, because you see the concept of ethnicity is related to 9.5 of paper 1, which is your race and racism. So you could interlink both of these things and come to a very nuanced understanding of these areas. Similarly, ethnicity, tribe and nation state and tribe and ethnicity. I tried to see if there are enough content for this. So again, like I said, I refer to Akshat Jain sir's notes. Here I also refer to Mandar Patki sir's notes. But I still could not find much content for these areas from them. So that is when again I diversified. I went to EPG Pathshala. And EPG Pathshala has a lot of content on these areas. So it's always good to refer to EPG Pathshala whenever you have a lack of content. Another is research articles. So there are a lot of research articles about ethnicity and everything. You could find research articles from this website called JSTOR. So from JSTOR, I used to refer to articles, and these articles also help me to get good content for 7.1, 2 and 3. Sorry, 7.2, 7.3 and 8.2. Now, I forgot to tell you about what I did for the others. So 6.1, 2 and 3, mainly again Akshay Jain sir's book, Mandar Patki sir's notes, and also Narayana Amit sir's answer copies. Here's some answer copies, so I refer to that as well. There are some other sources such as Kaka Committee report. I did not read the report as such because very lengthy report. Also, all of these toppers have read the report and they have added the notes, so I just copied from them. There is another committee called Abhay Bhang. This is about tribal health. You could read about this committee report. Again, I did not read it, but I just knew that there was a committee, and I did not make notes on it, but I knew the broad suggestions of the committee. Okay. So this is what I did for all of these areas, and the other areas as well, mainly let's say history of administration of tribal areas, role of anthropology, contribution of anthropology. All of this I did mainly from Akshay Jain's book. So this was paper 2 for you guys. But now I remember I forgot to tell you one more thing, that is in fact again how Unit 6 is important for paper 1. Unit 6, if you recall, is anthropological theories, which forms the basis for socio-cultural anthropology in paper 1. Similarly, Unit 4 deals with Indian anthropologists. There are a lot of Indian anthropologists. The problem is we do not often study. Conventionally, people do not study about Indian anthropologists. I refer to Patki sir's notes. I also refer to Akshay Jain sir's notes here. Narayana Amit sir also has very good notes on these. But again, I found all of them lacking in content. So what I did is, like what I always do, I go to EPG Pathshala, I search for the thinker, and I get a very good, content from EPG Pathshala, which is a government website, right? So I think it is managed by Ministry of Education, if I'm not wrong. So whenever I used to not get enough content from these topper notes, I would go to EPG Pathshala. And Unit 4 is particularly very important because, like I said, it forms the basis of caste studies. It forms the basis for 3.2 caste system. It forms the basis for 5.1 Indian village or village studies. If you really need to understand caste in India or village studies in India, you need to know what all different anthropologists, Indian anthropologists, have done in these areas. Okay, so now we have briefly went through the syllabus for anthropology. We have, I told you guys how to choose an optional, why I chose anthropology, and we went through the syllabus of anthropology, all from a very beginner perspective. Now I'll briefly show you how I made notes for anthropology. And it is basically essentially to show you guys how I captured ideas and how I revised. Okay, so I made very few physical notes on paper. Not a huge fan of that. So I used digital notes. But again, in digital notes, I had an iPad. So I used to write on the iPad. So this is a screenshot of a page of a note that I wrote. This is the page right here. And as you can see, this has a Cornell study method. If you recall, Cornell study method is something like this. We divide the paper into 2. We write headings here and the content here. And we write something, there is anything extra or special about the note or something that we need to recall, then we write it here. It's called Cornell method. It's a very famous method of note making. So I use that for making notes in anthropology. So the template is already set in this. I use this app called GoodNotes 5, and here you can see that this is already there. It is already in the Cornell form. So I used to write the headings here. This heading is definition of social structure. And this is 3 aspects of social structure. This is social laws. I used to write the definitions in the side and then the notes in the right side. In the definitions in the left side, notes in the right side. Some of the notes I wrote by hand with a pencil, right? We write in iPad. And the others, you can see, I had made a physical note somewhere, maybe in one of my attempts, and I had just scribbled it down in a paper. I took the photo of that and copied and pasted it here. Similarly, this is from another, I think this is Karthik sir himself has made. Karthik sir is in Vajiram. So he has this brain tree material, and I took a photo of that material and I pasted it here. So this is what I did. I hand wrote something. I also copied and pasted. So this was my way of note making. Again, you could use different methods of making notes. I would share all of the notes that I made, physical as well as digital, in the channel. So, you could refer to the channel again. Just type my name, Benjo P. Jose, in Telegram. You would find the channel as a public channel. You could join it. And there I would make available all the anthro notes. I'm just compiling all of them and I will make them all available. Okay. So this was the session. We first talked about, again, to recap, we talked about how to choose an optional, why anthropology is a good optional, briefly went through the syllabus of anthropology, and also I showed you how I made notes. So this was mainly what I did for anthropology. I know this has been a very brief introduction. It has not been very detailed, but I still tried to give you an overall idea of how anthropology syllabus is to be approached. I have a Telegram channel, and if you want, you could follow it. It's just my name, and you can just follow it. I would update all of my notes and other strategies related to anthropology on the channel. And perhaps later on, maybe if it's required, I might make another video on anthropology. But again, I think I have given you a brief understanding of anthropology. And this was the video. I hope you guys benefited out of it. And how to choose an optional, why I chose anthropology, and a brief understanding or approach for a beginner when it comes to anthropology is what we shared through this platform till now. So that's basically it. Thank you.